Great. I think we can start. Donc, bonjour tout le monde. Hi, everyone. I am pleased to be here today for this webinar Join the Movement, Canada Climate Week Xchange 2026. My name is Sonia Lee, and I'm the director of the Canada Climate Law Initiative, one of the founding member of CCWX. La Semaine canadienne d'échange sur le climat is a national initiative. It is thus crucial to acknowledge and recognize that we all live and work on traditional and unceded land of many nations who have been guardian and steward of Turtle Island, also known as Canada. I'm personally joining from Jogjaga, where the Ganakahaga have been custodian of the lands and water for millennia. So today I'd like to invite you to take the time to reflect on the nation who have been guardian of the land where you are joining in. Maybe we can go to the next slide, please. So what we'll cover today, it's fairly simple. So we'll cover what is CCWX, how to join CCWX, why you would join. This year, 2026, will be the second edition, and some highlights of 2025, what's new for 2026, and at the end, you'll have time to use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to ask your question. Do not hesitate to ask your question in either English or French. So with that in mind, thank you so much. Merci beaucoup, and I'll pass it on to my colleague Adi at Responsible Investment Association.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Sonia Lee, and thank you also to everyone in the audience for joining us today. I'm Adi Johnson with the Responsible Investment Association, and I'll be walking you through what Canada Climate Week Xchange is, as well as some of the unique elements that you may not be aware of. But before we begin and moving on to the next slide, I'd like to say on behalf of the RIA just how honored we are to be one of the founding members of Canada Climate Week Xchange alongside such an incredible group of organizations that are committed to advancing climate dialogue across the country. And as you'll see on the slide, they include the TMX Group, the Canada Climate Law Initiative, CPA Canada, First Nations Financial Management Board, and Globe. So moving on to the next slide, at its core, you'll see that CCWX is really all about connection. It's about creating a dedicated moment each year where Canadians from coast to coast to coast can come together to exchange ideas, share solutions, showcase innovation, and engage in meaningful discussions on climate-related challenges, and even most importantly, on opportunities. As far as the mission and goal, if we can advance one more slide, the mission and goal behind CCWX are incredibly important, and it was created to help support Canada's climate commitments by providing a space for collaboration, because as we know, these challenges can't be solved in silos, and climate impacts every sector, every region and community differently, and Canada has its own unique realities geographically, economically, and socially. So the goal here isn't simply to raise awareness, but to encourage accessible and action-oriented conversations that reflect the Canadian context and help move ideas forward. And I think that's one of the most compelling aspects of CCWX, in that it recognizes that everyone has something valuable to contribute, whether you're working in finance, academia, policy, technology, community development, conservation, education, or in business. Your perspective matters. And one of the most powerful aspects of CCWX is the collective impact that's created when all of these conversations and events and activities are happening during the same week. Because as we know, individually, an event can inspire important dialogue within a particular community or sector. But when you know that hundreds of organizations and individuals across the country are all participating at the same time, that's when something much bigger happens, and it's truly a national moment of climate engagement. And we know no single industry, no organization, no sector is going to move the needle in isolation, right? So the challenges, they're too interconnected and too complex, and real progress requires collaboration across an entire ecosystem. And that's what makes this model so powerful. CCWX creates space for different perspectives and expertise to come together and learn from one another and contribute to the solutions collectively. And the whole purpose is to amplify visibility and connect audiences, build momentum, and reinforce the idea that climate isn't a niche issue belonging to one industry or one region. It's something that touches all of us. And it's also really energizing to know that while your event is taking place, there are other conversations happening across Canada, because that tangible sense of shared purpose is really hard to achieve otherwise. And that means that there's room for all kinds of participation, from grassroots community discussions to academic forums, investment and finance conversations, youth engagement, Indigenous leadership, science, policy, health, biodiversity, energy, food systems, and really any industry that you can think of that is part of the Canadian fabric has a role to play in CCWX. So whether it's a large event, small, virtual, in person, local, national, it can play an important role in the conversation. And that's something else that I really want to emphasize about CCWX, and that it's intended to be highly accessible. You don't need to create a large scale conference or heavily resourced initiative to participate. It could be a panel discussion, a workshop, a webinar, networking event, or a community gathering. Depending on your resources or really what you're looking to accomplish, it's not a one size fits all in terms of the type of event. Moving on to the next slide, I'd like to leave you with a few important dates that will be quite crucial to keep in mind. The first, of course, is when CCWX is taking place this year, and that will be from the 23rd to the 29th of November. But something else that you'll hear more on from Emily in a moment is that for organizations that are interested in hosting events, the submission deadline is October 30th. And I can't emphasize enough that we encourage you to submit early wherever possible, because it helps build traction and visibility across the schedule as the week approaches. We're incredibly excited about the continued growth and enthusiasm that we're seeing around CCWX, and hope that many of you will choose to participate this year. And with that, I will hand things over to Emily.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Emily Stockley, and I'm joining you this morning from the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. I'm working today in my office, which is located on Squamish Reserve land in West Vancouver. I'm a lawyer at the First Nations Financial Management Board, which we typically call FMB. The FMB is a First Nations-led organization established under the First Nations Fiscal Management Act. Our clients are First Nations and other Indigenous peoples who opt into our services, primarily with respect to developing, implementing, and maintaining fiscal capacity and controls within their governing and administrative bodies. We are proud to be a founding member of the CCWX. So, thank you for changing the slide. Now, anyone can participate in the CCWX. As an individual or on behalf of an organization. You can host an event, collaborate with others, or you can simply be a cheerleader for the CCWX and its events, promoting CCWX and its events on your socials and by word of mouth. Applications are now being accepted on our website, and you can learn more by clicking on the Host an Event button. This is on the top of our website there, and I've underlined the Host an Event toggle that you'll see. And you're going to hear a little more about how to apply for events a little bit later in a presentation. But now let's take it on to the why. Why take the time to join the CCWX? The CCWX allows event hosts and participants to talk about the climate issues that affect us all. Whether you're in the Arctic and observing changes in sea ice, or if you call Atlantic Canada home and experience more powerful hurricanes and tropical storms in the fall, climate change is a part of our lived experience as Canadians. Across our very large country, climate issues can be both regionally unique, as in the case of shoreline erosion, or shared across the country, as in the general increase in power and duration of forest fires. Canada's approach to climate change is going to be unique as against other nation states, and our laws, regulations, and policies are all going to reflect that. So we need to bring the focus to these issues. We need Canadians to lead the climate conversation to increase the seriousness with which our elected leaders and people in positions of power respond to these urgent issues. Canada Climate Week sets up a powerful opportunity for Canadians to talk to each other and to our leaders about issues. This includes impacts on human health, biodiversity, oceans, forests, and food systems. We need to talk about the wide-ranging solutions, adaptations, and actions we need to see. The earlier you decide to participate, the better. Earlier event application leads to more promotion and greater visibility to get your messages heard by more people. Now, on that note, I am so happy to now hand the microphone over to this year's earliest applicant, a woman that I'm personally privileged to know and just delighted to introduce to you. Laura Mueller is a PhD candidate in natural resources and environmental studies at the University of Northern British Columbia. Her work examines how Indigenous governance, relational systems, and financial structures can create pathways to economic self-determination and interrupt cycles of generational poverty. Laura holds a Master of Business Administration and received the 2025 Ponamu Tonanga Greenstone Treasury Award, which honors an Indigenous student each year for academic excellence, leadership, and community. Laura is the founder of Matriarch Media, and she worked for more than 10 years in the banking industry as a senior financial advisor. So Laura comes from many angles. Finally, Laura is a member of the Naka-Aztli First Nation and has ties to the Flying Dust First Nation as well. She's a proud mother to one son. Laura is going to talk to us about what inspired her to apply to lead an event during CCWX 2026. I'm going to hand it over now to Laura.
All right. Are we good? Can you see me? Not yet. Thank you so much, Emily, for the introduction. That was really appreciated. So why I'm choosing to do this. So first and foremost, my research centers on regenerative finance and looking at solutions through an Indigenous lens on how we can start to address the disparities that Indigenous communities we see in Canada and other vulnerable populations. So this is actually perfect timing for me from a personal and academic and professional perspective. I just finished my qualifying exams not too long ago. And in my in the reading list, so what I actually found was that sorry, I'm a little flustered. What I actually found was that transparency and actually shining a light on these issues is what makes the difference. It's what actually changes things. So a lot of these things we're kind of just catching up as a country, and more so through an Indigenous perspective. And I know that there's so much wealth of knowledge and so much wisdom that comes from Indigenous communities that has the potential to affect and to really change our trajectory. And I want to be able to take part in that. And I want to involve Indigenous voices. A lot of my prior research has shown that, we know that access to capital and financial literacy are barriers to capital for Indigenous communities and entrepreneurs. But what my research actually told me was that what we're looking for is community and healing. And what does community and healing actually look like? And that's why I want to look at hosting an event so that we can start looking at participatory and including voices that wouldn't necessarily be included otherwise. And that really comes down to a lot of that traditional knowledge held by Indigenous elders and knowledge keepers and what they're holding on to. We're very concerned that, that transmission isn't going to happen, and we're going to lose a lot of that knowledge and wisdom, and I don't want that to happen, because it has the potential to create a foundation for financial solutions and more so in the future, and what prosperity means to us. So I want to figure out what wealth and prosperity means and how we can shift that into a more regenerative future for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. Really appreciate that. Loud and clear, wanting participation and wanting more voices. Hi, everyone. I'm Eliza Riego. I'm with TMX Group. I'm one of the managing directors here. I'm also the founder of CCWX, but really it is an effort on behalf of everyone, all of the hosts that participated last year, my fellow founding members. We all work together to bring about this initiative, which now I tend to call a movement because we saw so many people participate and want to be part of what we are trying to accomplish for Canada and Canadians. Maybe we can advance the slide. So I'm here to talk about 2025. It was our first year. I think most of you have heard that already. And what we can say is it was a tremendous success. And really, the way that we judge success or qualify success in our minds is the voices, is participation. And so we were so delighted when we saw representation across so many provinces and territories. Really, there was representation from not only events happening in different time zones, but represented different time zones. And I think earlier we talked about our voices reaching into the political sphere, and we had a lot of participation. Thank you to 2025 event hosts that had members of provincial and federal government participate and be speakers or be in the audience. And one of the other things that we didn't anticipate, but was so amazing to see, is just the diversity of the events that really could captivate and engage audiences. So there was a movie screening, a cabaret, which was fantastic, a podcast. There's a lot of food and drink, socials, roundtables, plays, conferences, webinars, and panels. This decentralized methodology that we've created with CCWX really allows you to do anything. And again, it could be a small group of individuals doing something very hands-on to a wider summit or conference. As you heard, the mission and goal is really what we look at when we approve events. And so that's our guardrails. And we have taken what we saw in 2025. A lot of that you would have seen on LinkedIn, you would have seen it on our website, but we created a space called Connecting Canadians, because really that's what we see happening in this movement or initiative. And it's in our About section. It is interactive. And so you can see pictures, you can see videos, you can see where CCWX kind of was able to penetrate on a map. I will note that the information and details there, that was relying on the event host itself. So it actually doesn't truly represent the full number of people that we reached through all of the events. So thank you, Canada, for being part of 2025. We look forward to your participation in 2026. But before we get to 2026, I want you to hear from one of our event hosts, David Watson. He's the Associate Director of Communications at the Institute of Sustainable Finance. David, I'm going to let you introduce yourself more and what your institution does and your experience for 2025.
Yeah, hi everyone, and thank you, Alyssa, and thanks very much to the folks at the Canada Climate Week Xchange team for having me here. Yeah, I'm David Watson. I'm with the Institute for Sustainable Finance. We're based out of the Smith School of Business at Queen's University. We work to platform the best ideas and latest research on sustainable finance. We can help inform decision makers in government and in the market. And as such, CCWX seemed like a natural fit to us last year. In fact, I think it would have been a big omission if we weren't there. And in addition, we just had a high degree of comfort with all the member organizations. We've collaborated with all of them in varying capacities in the past. We've had a lot of success. So we hosted or participated in, I believe, 4 events over the week last year, both online and in person, and we released 2 papers around that time. So we had something significant going on pretty much every day. I'd say participation in our events and uptake in the work was excellent. I think really benefited from the buzz and the outsized focus on sustainable finance, generated by the week. And I realize it's a dispersed national event and lots of great things are going on across the country, but it was particularly gratifying to be in Toronto. In addition to our own events, we could attend all the other things that were going on, organized by the other, partner organizations. And it really feels like kind of an old home week. Everywhere you go, you see someone you know, you're excited to hear about their ideas and recent work. And you get the sense that it's a real community of people that is kind of grown up around sustainable finance over the last several years. In terms of advice for those of you planning about or thinking about planning your own events, and I encourage you to do so. As Adi and Emily have mentioned, I'd make your submission early if possible. There's lots of potential as you get closer for jumping on new and exciting opportunities, pulling something timely together. We certainly did that. But the schedule can get a bit crowded, and you don't want to be fighting for the same ears and eyeballs if someone else decides to do something on a similar topic at the same time. By a similar token, I'd say partner up, join like-minded organizations. I think last year we worked with CPA Canada, Task Force on Nature-Related Financial Disclosures, Institute for Corporate Directors, Canada Climate Law Initiative, and others. It just makes lighter work of things and it ensures, you amplify your audience, and it ensures where, possible we're rowing in the same direction and not competing. So we're still working things out, but we'll definitely have a presence at CCWX again this year. The thing I'm really hoping for is we'll have more musical numbers. I think Sonia Lee and her colleagues who put on the Climate Cabaret last year, it was a lot of fun. It was a huge highlight. And I think they've set the bar pretty high for informative entertainment for this coming year in Climate Week 2026. So really look forward to seeing everyone there, and I'll hand things back to Alyssa, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, David and Laura, for your input. We look forward to your events in 2026. And David, again, appreciate your participation last year. Just before I hand it over to talk about 2026, there is one aspect that we offered last year, and we will continue to offer for the full 5 years at CCWX, that we think that a lot of event hosts kind of missed the opportunity. And that's the opportunity to issue a press release. It's free. It's distributed through TMX news file. And about a dozen hosts took advantage of it. And I could say that hundreds of people clicked through. There's great SEO on those press releases. There's a template, very easy to use. And of course, if you don't use the template, you can create your own press release and still distribute it through TMX news file. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Ujala to take you through some highlights of 2026.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm Ujala Motala from the Chartered Professional Accountants of Canada, and I'm pleased to be here today to share what's new for CCWX 2026, as well as provide more information on the application process and considerations for event hosts. So we're excited that the CCWX movement is growing and expanding. We've received many inbound requests from organizations wanting to meet with us to understand more about CCWX. And as mentioned earlier, we had an incredible first year, and we're looking forward to hopefully seeing the initiative continue to grow and develop. So as part of that growth and expansion, this year, we're intending to target previously underrepresented areas of Canada to be part of CCWX. Additionally, last year, the founding members held kickoff events in Toronto at the start of the week. And this year, with geographic diversity in mind, the founding members of CCWX will be hosting kickoff events in various cities across Canada on Monday, November 23rd, with the purpose of building momentum for the week. So please look out for further information on our events page for those events. And then finally, in terms of what's new this year, we will be introducing a new speaker registry on our website. So speakers can fill out a form to show their interest in being part of an event, and event hosts can inquire about being matched with those who have expertise on specific topics that they are looking to focus on for their events. So we hope that this will expand opportunities for collaboration between speakers and event hosts to continue to enhance the CCWX experience. We can move to the next slide, please. So turning to some details about the application process, we are now accepting applications for event hosts for CCWX 2026. The process is simple and straightforward. Applications can be made using an online form on our website at the link that's shown on the slide. And as mentioned earlier, the closing date for the applications is October 30th, but we definitely encourage early application, as you've heard from a number of the presenters. And so I'll go into a few of the benefits of doing so. So firstly, a more timely review and response from us. We try our best to review applications and respond as quickly as possible, but as you can imagine, as we get closer to the deadline, we receive more applications at the same time, which can slow down our review and response times. So earlier application provides us the opportunity to review and respond in a timely fashion. Additionally, early application helps ensure that there's enough time both for you as an event host as well as CCWX to promote your event. So as an event host, you of course want good attendance and registration for your events. And the best way for that to happen is to get your application in early and get it reviewed and hopefully approved. And as an incentive for early applications, we will be providing additional promotion opportunities for applications that are received by August 31st. So that includes, for example, your event being featured on the CCWX social channels, newsletter, as well as our website. And then finally, we also encourage potential event hosts to review the terms and conditions that include the obligations for hosts before you submit an application. So this includes, for example, your responsibility to be fully in charge of your event, including organizing, promoting, and hosting, as well as the related costs. And we also ask that event hosts share some information with us after the event. So event outcomes, which include a short summary of your event, the number of attendees and speakers, and any images or recordings that you have and would be comfortable sharing with us. So I'll go into a bit more detail about the information required in the application form, as well as some considerations that go into our review process. So I'm not going to cover all the information that's required, but just provide a bit of a high-level overview. So in the application form, you'll need to include an event title and description, basic logistical information, such as the date and time of the event, what city it will be held in, and if it's being held in person or hybrid. And also the event format. So for example, this could include a conference, a workshop, a roundtable, or other activity. There's a wide variety of formats that would be acceptable. So we just want to know what type of format your event will be taking. And then we also ask what your target audience will be. So this could include, for example, investors, academia, the general public. And again, there's a wide variety of different audiences. We just want to get a general sense of who your event is targeting. Then in terms of additional considerations, as previously mentioned, alignment with CCWX's mission and goals is key to acceptance of your application, along with a focus on how the event leads to action. So a few additional considerations. We want to see the event demonstrate one or more of the following items: cross-collaboration that drives solutions or action, inclusion and accessibility, allowing underrepresented communities to participate, and that includes both underrepresented people as well as places. Youth participation is also of interest to us. And finally, diversity among speakers and or diversity among languages. So as I mentioned, that's just a high-level overview of the application process and some of the information required, as well as some of our considerations. As hopefully a final reminder, the application window closes October 30th, and we encourage early applications. So with that, I will turn it over to Sonia Lee.
Great. Thank you so much, Jella, and thanks to my fellow founding members for presenting this. So now we're ready for the Q&A part of this webinar. So we have received a few questions. So maybe I'll invite Elisa and please other founding member joining and turn on your camera so we can answer these questions. So the first one is, would it be possible to send the presentation afterward?
I have no issue with that.
Yeah, so we have the list, so we'll be happy to share it after the webinar, and the webinar is recorded, so you also have access to watch it afterward. The second question is how CCWS is partnering with Toronto Climate Week next week.
I'll go ahead and answer that as well. So actually, at least over a year, I had reached out to some of the various regional climate weeks across Canada because it was important for us to work together. Again, we're all about connecting Canadians. And so we've had ongoing discussions, and we do have plans to announce something a little bit more official about how we are working together, but know that we are collaborating. So we do have ongoing discussions. Nothing that I can say today, but we do have good intent to work together and share best practices and help elevate and promote each other.
Thank you. And then the two next questions are somewhat related, so I'm gonna combine them. So how is financing of the event organized? Are there any grants available? What are the expected costs?
So that's a great question, and I did get to read them ahead of time. So we don't have any fees for applying, and we also don't have guardrails around what you do. So really the costs that you can expect is really in line with what you plan. It could probably be close to zero if you have a platform like Zoom or Teams or Google Meet and you're hosting a webinar. Again, we don't ask for any fees. We don't. I don't believe there would be much. Like there's nothing that we ask from you, and we don't put any onus on how big or how large your event is. I know that there could be funding out there depending on what type of organization you represent, although CCWX at this time is not coordinating anything specific.
Thank you. And then the other question, maybe I can invite Adi to turn on your camera and we can answer that question. So my target audience is investor, bank, infrastructure investor, climate impact investor. So my goal is to build confidence in local climate action being a smart investment. So does this seem like a good fit for CCWX? Does this align with the usual participant at these events? Adi, would you like to take that on?
Sure. Thank you, Sonia Lee. And the short answer is yes, absolutely. As we've mentioned throughout the presentation, we're looking for events and participants from across a broad spectrum of industries and different types of organizations. And you'll see that the finance sector does feature quite prominently across a lot of the events. So I think this sounds like a very worthwhile event with a target audience that is heavily engaged in Climate Week. So wish you best of luck in organizing and look forward to seeing you in November.
Thank you, Adi. So, if I may also add, I think, as you may have noted, a lot of the founding member have some sort of connection with the financial and corporate sector, but we encourage any type of organization, whether it's grassroots, university, academics, to organize event. If you're focused on climate science, sustainable finance, I think there's room for everyone. And we also encourage you to do different type of event. I think As some of my founding member mentioned, we at CCLI hosted the Climate Cabaret, so you can be super creative in what you want to organize. Panels are great, but there's different ways. We also last year we got a theater piece, so I think be creative in what you would like to host during CCWX. So I think we do not. Oh, we have one other question. Will you connect groups that are proposing similar or align events in the same region, same times, so we can discuss how to align so we're not competing or maybe collaborate? Very good question. Do you want to take that on, Elisa?
Yeah, no problem. On our website, there is an email address. I believe it's info@ccwx.ca, I believe, or .com. I haven't written to him myself, but I am the one who typically responds. So I take a lot of meetings with a lot of individuals. And so if you send us a note there, we can set up a meeting to discuss where you are and what you're thinking about. And then that is our intent. Again, connecting Canadians. This is what it's all about. And so we do find that events have more success where they're connected and there's a linkage and there's more people involved.
Great, thank you. So I don't think we
And
have any more questions. So merci beaucoup. I'll pass it on again to you, Lisa, to close this.
actually, it's Elizabeth.
Oh, Elizabeth,
Thank you.
my apologies.
No problem, Sonia Lee. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I'll ask you to hang on for just a few more minutes here as we wrap things up. I'm Elizabeth Shirt-Gamble. I lead the team at Profoundry, the group of organizations that includes Globe. Like others have shared, it's really a privilege to be among the founding members of CCWX, and really even a greater privilege to get to have this final mic drop moment here. So hopefully I do it justice. I want to leave you with this, and by naming something that I think we are likely all feeling in these uncertain times. It is easy right now to feel like momentum on climate is slowing down. In a lot of cases, the headlines suggest things are pulling back, getting quieter, maybe even stalling. But when you actually talk to people, when you look across organizations and communities, that's not what's happening. As we've said, we know that climate affects us all, and we know Canada has a unique opportunity and unique challenges that it needs to address. At Profoundry, we have been quietly engaging corporate and thought leaders from across Canada to ask them what they think the state of climate and sustainability is here in Canada. We're going to share more about this in the coming weeks. And the good news is leaders are telling us that the work to progress climate action is still very much alive in Canada. And in many cases, it's actually getting stronger, more practical, more embedded, more real. Things are certainly shifting and realigning. It doesn't have to feel like a moment of retreat. Maybe it's actually a moment of reset. And that is why CCWX matters, because Canada needs space like this. Not just one big stage, many stages, many formats, multiple and diverse ways to engage. And not just one location, across the country, across sectors, across perspectives. Because climate in Canada is not just one story. It's not one narrative. It's local, it's complex, it's tied to who we are, our landscapes, our industries, our communities, our shared future. And what makes Canada special, what we see again and again, is the way we approach that complexity. We collaborate, we look for balance, we bring different perspectives together, we look for that opportunity for collective action. And in a world that feels increasingly divided, that ability to find common ground, that is a strength, and it is uniquely Canadian. Here's the thing, though. The work is continuing. What leaders observe is that it seems like we're seeing less of it. Less conversation, less visibility, less visible shared momentum and collective action. And that matters because progress is not just about doing the work. It's about connecting the dots between the people and the organizations who are doing it. That's what builds momentum. That's what sparks new ideas. And that's how we get real change. And that is what CCWX is all about. For that week in November, we will hold that space. A space where people come together to share what they're working on, learn from each other, push things forward together. So the ask is simple. Host something. It can be big, it could be small. Bring your perspective. It matters. And share what you're doing, both the wins and the challenges, because this only works if you show up. And I'll say this, at a time when Canada is facing incredible economic pressure, global uncertainty, lots of noise, there is a moment of opportunity to show what Canadian leadership looks like, to come together as a country and to build solutions that really reflect who we are. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us today, for the interest you're showing in being part of this. Thank you to my fellow founding partners and members for the vision, the collaboration, your commitment. Big thanks to Elisa and the team at TMX for continuing to champion this initiative and help it grow. One last reminder, we're excited to be kicking things off in a different way this year with those founding partner events happening across the country on day one. Please do visit ccwx.ca to find out more as we share it about those kickoff events, see what's being planned, and do subscribe to the CCWX newsletter, which you can do through the website so you can stay connected as more gets added. Do not sit this one out. Be part of the week, be part of the conversation, be part of what comes next. And we can't wait to see what you create. We'll see you in November. Thank you.